So currently, all 50 states can legally take possession of your crypto if it's left untouched for as little as 3 years.
AB 1052 will establish a legal framework to legitimize digital assets, also known as cryptocurrency and blockchain, and unclaimed property law.
States like California will take possession of your crypto in its native form, whereas states like Illinois will sell your crypto first and then take possession of it. And then you have states like Arizona who will take your crypto, stake it, earn rewards from it, and then send those rewards to the state's general fund for government spending. But hold on, why would the state seize your crypto in the first place? And if they do, how do you get it back? And more importantly, how do you prevent the state from ever taking your crypto in the first place? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to help explain in this video. So first, why would a state seize your crypto? Well, they do it legally through unclaimed property laws. These laws require businesses to hand over lost or forgotten assets such as uncashed checks, dormant bank accounts, or even forgotten insurance benefits to the state. And the goal here is to reunite owners with their assets, or so they say. The crazy thing is that according to the government, 1 in 7 people have unclaimed property being held by the state. There's literally billions of dollars worth of unclaimed property just sitting there waiting to be claimed, and I'll actually show you how to do this later on in the video. But when it comes to cryptocurrency, not all 50 states specifically mention crypto in their unclaimed property laws. Rather, all 50 states have catch-all provisions in their unclaimed property statutes. These provisions state that any intangible personal property that isn't otherwise mentioned becomes the state's property after the period of dormancy. The dormancy period varies by state, but in most cases, if your crypto is left untouched from anywhere between 3 to 7 years, then the state has a right to claim that cryptocurrency from the business that holds it. But more recently, over 20 states have begun updating their unclaimed property laws to specifically include digital assets like cryptocurrency, really just to make the entire process easier for them. But before turning it over to the state, the business must try to contact the original owner of the cryptocurrency. If they don't hear anything back, then they notify the state that the customer has essentially abandoned their crypto. Now, I don't know about you, but I've held crypto longer than 3 years. This is known as hodling, and it's extremely common in the crypto space. So the fact that hodlers can now have their crypto taken from them is the main concern that I have with this law. Also, did you notice that I said the business must try to contact the owner before giving it over to the state? What businesses actually hold cryptocurrency? Yep, you guessed it. Crypto exchanges like Coinbase, Robinhood, and Uphold, they're all subject to unclaimed property laws. The reason this specifically applies to crypto exchanges is because they are known as custodial wallets. So when you hold crypto on an exchange, you don't actually own or even control that crypto. So when you see your funds in your account, that's really just the exchange's internal ledger. That's not actually crypto. In simple terms, it's a digital IOU. The real crypto is held in the exchange's crypto wallet and secured by their private keys, which is why they are in full control of your crypto. Because of that control, and because all states require KYC, all the crypto exchanges know all your personal information, including what state you live in, so they have to abide by your state's unclaimed property laws. So each year, crypto exchanges actually run reports to find dormant accounts. They look for accounts that haven't shown any indication of interest for the past several years. But what qualifies as interest? Well, things like trading crypto, simply logging into your account, or even replying to a customer support email. But if you don't do any of those things, then the account is presumed abandoned. Ultimately, this means even if you live in a different state than where the crypto exchange that you use is headquartered, they still have to abide by your state's law. So if you live in a small town in Delaware, but your crypto is on Robinhood, which is headquartered in California, and you bought crypto, say, 5 years ago, which just so happens to be Delaware's dormancy period, and you never log into the account or reply to any of their emails, then Robinhood would be required to hand over that crypto to the state of Delaware. What's even worse, though, in states like Delaware is that they must sell your crypto for cash before handing it over to the state. And the exchange is going to sell it at whatever the current market price is. So if you have 1 Bitcoin and it's worth $60,000, and then the state sells it, and by the time you realize that your Bitcoin is gone and it's now worth $120,000, the state doesn't owe you $120,000, they owe you the $60,000. You're essentially being forced to sell the bottom by the government. But unclaimed property law isn't the only reason why a state could potentially seize your crypto. Based on existing legal processes, there are at least 4 other reasons why a state could potentially seize it. Court orders is one good example. If a court orders a crypto must be seized, for example in a lawsuit, then the exchange has to comply. Criminal investigations, like if your crypto is tied to fraud or any illegal activities. Tax debts, like if you owe back taxes or have refused to pay in the past. And probate or death with no clear owner. So if someone dies and no one claims or accesses the account, crypto held on an exchange can be treated as unclaimed property as well. Now, many of these situations go beyond unclaimed property laws, and maybe none of this even applies to you. But you have to admit, it is very eye-opening nonetheless. Because if a state can seize your crypto, was it ever really your crypto to begin with? I'd argue it wasn't. So this all just goes to show that how you store your crypto ultimately determines who controls it and who can or can't take it from you. But how would someone actually go about getting their crypto back if the state claims it because of unclaimed property law? Because remember, the whole purpose of this law is to reunite people with their assets. Well, the process seems fairly simple. I actually tested this myself with some other non-crypto related unclaimed property that I apparently have. You just go to a website like missingmoney.com to search for any unclaimed property under your name and state. And I actually did this for some of my family members as well and found hundreds of dollars worth of unclaimed property, which is pretty insane. From there, you fill out some personal information, file a claim, then you'll receive an email saying that your claim has been submitted, and then it's just a waiting game. They'll reach out to you if they need any more documentation proving that those assets are yours. That said, I don't think the main issue is the law itself, because this law is actually pretty helpful. I mean, I'm getting back money I didn't even know the state was holding for me. What is concerning, though, is that what determines whether or not the state can take your crypto from you is how you're currently holding your crypto. So I want to show you how to prevent this from ever happening to you. So there are a couple of ways you can do this. Personally, I only feel safe using one of these 2 methods, but the first method is to simply log into your crypto exchange account every so often. In fact, it's probably a good idea to know your state's unclaimed property law, more specifically the dormancy period, so that you can at least log in every, 3 years so that the state doesn't seize your crypto. But the issue I have with this method is that your crypto is still stored on the exchange, which means you're not actually in control. So if the exchange shuts down or they get hacked, you essentially lose your money. Likewise, if the exchange determines that your account is suspicious for some reason, they have the right to lock your account and even freeze your funds. And you're probably thinking, well, how often does this even happen? Well, exchanges do get hacked every year. In 2025 alone, more than 7 major cryptocurrency exchanges were hacked for billions of dollars. So that kind of thing definitely does happen. But hackers aren't even my main concern here. My main concern is the crypto exchange itself. Because they control our crypto, they can do whatever they want with our funds. I've personally had my crypto randomly frozen on Coinbase for well over a month with no clear explanation, and my friend had his entire Coinbase account locked for well over a year because someone else tried to access his account. And this was after he had sent Coinbase all of his personal information proving that he was the account owner, and they basically came back and told him, sorry, there's nothing we can do. And this whole process went on for a year until he finally threatened legal action, and at that point, they unlocked his account. So that leads me to option number 2, become your own bank. One of the greatest benefits of owning cryptocurrency is that you can self-custody it. When you self-custody your crypto, no one but you has control over it. That means the state can't take it, exchanges can't freeze it, and nobody can lock your account. You also don't have to log in every few years just to prove that your account isn't dormant. You simply know your crypto is there when you need it, and it's secure depending how you self-custody it. I mean, this is exactly how Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, holds his or their Bitcoin. It's been sitting dormant for over 16 years, and unless Satoshi Nakamoto suddenly reappears, it'll probably stay that way. And all self-custody really means is this. Instead of letting a company like Coinbase manage the keys that are used to access your crypto. You generate and manage the keys yourself. Self-custody is the only way to truly own and fully control your crypto. And this is one of the main reasons why the only way I hold crypto today is using a self-custodial wallet. I don't keep any crypto on any exchanges because that defeats one of the main purposes, one of the main benefits of owning crypto in the first place. But not all self-custody options are equal. One of the easiest and most secure ways to self-custody your crypto is using a hardware wallet. These devices allow you to generate a brand new key, then they take that key and store it offline in a secure environment away from all the threats of the internet, and it's proven to be one of the most secure ways to store your crypto for the past 12 years. Now, the main downsides to using a hardware wallet is that you are fully responsible for your keys and thus your crypto. So you have to keep track of this key if you want to access your crypto. Another downside is the slight learning curve that's required when setting up and using a hardware wallet. That said, hardware wallets have come a long way since the first one came out back in 2014. Today, you can set up a hardware wallet in a matter of minutes using nothing but your phone. One of my favorite self-custodial wallets is Tangem, and this is the exact hardware wallet that thousands of other crypto investors on this channel have chosen as their first hardware wallet, mainly because of how secure it is and because of how easy it is to use, even if you've never used a hardware wallet before. I'll drop a discounted link along with my full step-by-step user guide for Tangem down in the description if you're ready to self-custody your crypto today. And if you're still unsure whether you need a hardware wallet or how it actually works, check out this next video. I'll meet you over there. God bless.